All right, here is the too long didn't watch version of this Nikon D500 review. The high ISO is ridiculously amazing, the best of any camera I've ever seen in my entire life. You can now scroll through images really fast on the touchscreen, which might seem like a trivial feature, but I've been jealous of that Canon back spinny wheel for quite some time, so this is a huge revelation for Nikon. It focuses faster, better, harder, stronger, with more dynamic range than ever before. I thought that my autofocus was good enough on my D750. Huge improvement on this D500. Everything is in focus, even in total darkness. The news is it's a crop sensor, but you probably already knew that. So let's get to the review. Lindsay and I are here in Jamaica for a destination wedding. I'm inside because it's really windy outside tonight. She is at a boudoir shoot. I am here drinking one of the beers from the minibar. Who's having more fun? To start this review, I'm going to say again how ridiculous the high ISO is. Here's a shot from the D500 at 10,000 ISO, and here's a shot from my iPhone at the exact same moment. This shoots HD video at 60 frames a second, which I like, or it also shoots 30 frames a second at 4K, which is important to some people. One of the main reasons I actually bought this camera was for the XQD cards that it uses. These are a lot faster than CF and SD cards, and for me, I shoot both photos and videos on wedding days, so I need to be able to take a couple pictures and switch to video mode. And this does it with absolutely no buffer lag, which is amazing. And that is the reason that I purchased this camera as fast as I possibly could. One quick thing to add here, the huge negative with the D750 is the buffer lag, and that it just fills up, and when the buffer fills up, which is after like 9 images or something ridiculous, you can't do anything with the camera. It just has the light on, you can't read, you can't write. But this D500 literally has no buffer. You can shoot 200 images in a row at 10 frames a second, and that's just cool now. Another issue I have with the D750, with the exception of the eyepiece always falling off and the rubber grip peeling off, is that I will get the recording interrupted error quite often, even with a brand new freshly formatted card. I'm not sure what the issue is, and it's also kind of random that sometimes it'll delete the entire clip if it errors, and sometimes it won't, so I don't know what the deal is. None of the cards have ever corrupted to a point that they're non-recoverable, but still just very strange. My favorite new feature of this camera is the fact that you can grab this little bottom touchscreen slider here, and you can quickly scroll through images. I have been jealous of that Canon wheel on the back forever. My Canon friends get through images so fast. I would spend way too long trying to get back to be like, hey, check out this cool photo that it took 25 minutes ago that takes me 25 minutes to navigate to. Now that problem is solved, lots of fun. The touchscreen isn't as I was expecting it to be. It's actually really responsive. Let's find a non-embarrassing image. All right, so here's an image. There's like a tree, it's a prism shot. But all right, as an example, I will show you how responsive this touchscreen actually is. It's pretty nice. You can do the pinchy zoom, that type of thing. You can slide side to side to images, which is fun, I guess. I use it more than I thought I would. It doesn't get in the way. I thought that my face would be like activating it. It's not, it's fine. They obviously put some thought into it. Also, the screen flips out, which is kind of cool. So whenever I'm doing video, I have one hand here, and put the LCD up against my chest, so I have 3 points of stabilization. That with a stabilized lens, you'll never need a tripod. Quick interruption, since I did not read the manual, I've just now figured out that there is electronic VR built into this camera, which is amazing, and makes my waiting for these Tamron 35 and 85 millimeter stabilized VC lenses kind of useless. So if Nikon continues to build this into their products, you no longer need stabilized lenses to do video. It takes away that little bit of camera shake. As you can see right now, I'm using a non-stabilized lens, but if I was shooting this on the 500, this would be very smooth. The electronic VR does feel a little bit robotic though, so whenever you pan, there's definitely a start and end point. It feels a little mechanical, not human, but it's still way, way, way better than not shooting with any stabilization whatsoever. And one more thing that I just found out that is also a major feature for the autofocus tune, which I'm not sure if everyone uses. I personally use it quite often. Instead of actually having to like use a piece of paper and figure out like charts and graphs and all kinds of stuff, you basically just focus it on something and you hold down 2 buttons and it tells you what your AF should be at, plus or minus. Do that like 3 times, take the average of whatever it is. But hugely amazing. All my lenses feel so sharp now. And back to Jamaica. Short-term failure on this product is that snap bridge, which is supposed to be the NFC near-field communication / Bluetooth that they advertise right here after Wi-Fi, isn't actually out for iOS yet. It says summer 16, but if I know anything about app development, that probably actually means February 2017. Excited to use that when it comes out. Kind of weird that they released a camera without something that they advertise on the side here. Strange choice, but whatever. I didn't know that my autofocus needed improvement above my D750, but this is significantly better. At night, even with this off-brand Tamron lens, it's not hunting for focus. My 750 sometimes just doesn't know, so it goes past it and then it comes back. This just finds it, locks on, and it's, I would say, 98% accurate through my tests so far. And the crazy thing with the high ISO is that you can turn just like a little light on a wall and make it look like a huge LED panel because you can just let so much light into the lens and retain the quality. So very cool. The dynamic range on this camera is also way better than my 750. Feels better too. Physically, it feels a lot more professional. Going back to a 750 makes it almost feel like a plastic cheap toy, the 750, whereas the 500 actually feels like a legitimate camera. The ISO button, which I also didn't think needed upgrading, is in a way better spot now. It's right here, so it's right above your shutter. At first, when you first pick up this camera, you're like, why is it there? This is ruining my life. But then as soon as you realize that it's not up here and not down here, and that it's actually somewhere that makes more sense, you come around pretty quickly, and it's nice to just be able to do an ISO adjustment with one hand, which is something that I've been lacking that I didn't know that I've been lacking for quite some time, so thanks for that, Nikon. The eyepiece here is a heck of a lot better than the D750 as well. The 750 just pops off and you lose it like day 2. This is actually attached, which is smart. It's nicer to look through, and it just feels better in general. They've gotten rid of the auto exposure, autofocus lock back here. All you have is the AF on button, but you can remap this button to be the autofocus, auto exposure lock, which I have done. I don't use the AF on button because I don't know. I was never really a back button focuser. That never really made sense to my brain. So I've remapped this so that I can get focus, hold it down, and then my focus stays exactly where it's at, regardless of how I frame it. Oh, and another fantastic thing that I never thought that I knew. This one I don't know if I need to know, but you can't see because it's daytime, but these lights, whenever you turn on the LED that's up here on your panel, these also light up. So whoever's the first person to hack these LEDs to go hot pink, send me a picture because I want to see that. At this point, you might be saying to yourself, this sounds like a way better camera than the D750. It does everything the 750 does, and it does it better, and it feels better, and the autofocus is better, and there's more dynamic range, and it shoots 4K. Well, here's where they screwed it up for you. It's a crop sensor, so all of your images will just look a little bit weird. It'll look like you just kind of zoomed in on them if you've been shooting full frame. If you're coming from a crop sensor and you're perfectly happy with it, this is the 100% logical step. If you've been shooting for a long time on a full frame sensor, it's a really difficult transition to go into a crop sensor. On a typical day, I'll have a 35mm lens, which is this one, on one camera, and an 85mm lens on another. But shooting a crop body really screws all that up, and shooting an 85 on a crop sensor is more like a 105, which is a weird lens to just have on all day. Whereas if you're shooting a 35, it's now a 52, which also isn't the ideal focal length. I did find that having this 35 on this crop body did work out pretty well. One of the huge advantages to a crop is that even though it zooms your lens in, your focus distance stays the same. So you can use a 35 as a macro and actually get some pretty good shots. So for ring shots and smaller details, it's actually kind of cool. That is really the only redeeming factor to the fact that it's a crop sensor. Actually, I guess there's one last thing if we're reaching for reasons why a crop sensor isn't the worst thing in the world. Shooting the 70-200 outside, it's really nice to actually have the 300mm range, which is something that I never thought that I needed, but it's kind of nice to have. It definitely makes the lens unusable as like a full only lens for a wedding day or for a shoot day because the 70mm is just too long on the wide end. Whereas personally for me, 70 on a full frame is just wide enough for most things if I'm photographing people. Obviously for architecture, that type of thing, you're probably gonna wanna go for a full frame camera. All right, so to wrap this up, this D500 is a fantastic camera if you can deal with the crop sensor, or if you have a need to shoot 4K and you've already kind of invested in the Nikon lens line, great solution for that. If you find yourself shooting wide more than telephoto in a professional setting, I don't believe that this is the correct camera for you. I would definitely go for a D750. I value full frame over all of the technological features that have come out in this that I've just kind of raved a little bit about. So I'm waiting for all of this to come in a full frame package, and at that point that will become the perfect camera. The D5 kind of does that, but the D5 is an insanely expensive camera, so there's no chance I'm going to be purchasing that. Also, the D5 doesn't have the flip screen, so I can't use that. Also, I'm just going to throw this into the mix here. This is how fast the shutter goes. It's a lot of pictures, real quick.